early on is essentially saying SAP's different product lines, right, and how they are used by different industries, right? Obviously, they've got SAP Business One, which is the basic functionality, right? Smaller organizations use it. And then they have Business by Design, Business All-in-One, and then what really the market we are after is SAP Business Suite, which is used by Fortune 500 companies, right? The largest enterprises are using that software to run their day-to-day enterprise resource planning needs, right? So this is to kind of tell you that, Business One is the basic functionality. Then you got Business by Design, which is software on demand, which nowadays, what's the terminology used for that? Software on demand? SaaS, right? Software as a service, SaaS, right? That's the core paradigm shift, right, happening in the IT industry, right, is that the service-based model, right, whether it's software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, right? The traditional paradigms are changing, right? Everything is being provided as a service to you. Hardware, infrastructural, and even software components are all sitting in the cloud, right? And the key players in the cloud market, right? Obviously, the biggest one being Amazon with Amazon Web Services. Then, we have got Microsoft with Windows Azure, right? The cloud-based environment. And then a lot of other consortiums like Rackspace, which has called OpenStack service offering, as well as, AT&T has got Synaptic cloud offering. So cloud is becoming the new normal, where anything and everything would be available to you from an IT perspective, right? So if you have not read that in any of the trade journals, or you're not picking it up from the marketplace and any of the intelligent reading you're doing, then you're behind, right? So start reading about some of this, what is cloud? Right? Especially go to Amazon. We are a partner with Amazon Web Services. We run a lot of our SAP applications on the cloud. Then Business All-in-One, saying that SAP is an ERP application, but rather than you going ahead and configuring it to provide different capabilities, whether it's in finance or sales or distribution, material management, production planning, etc., we'll give it to you pre-configured so that you don't have to do much. You can just install it and run with it. Business All-in-One, right? Obviously, with all of these, the drawback is that you have to change your business practices to meet what SAP delivered to you, right? But if you're a bigger company, you want to go the other way around. You cannot change your business practices, right? In certain cases, you are coming up with those business practices because you're one in a kind, right? So SAP cannot go and tell Boeing that, how do you manage bill of materials of a Boeing 747, let's say, right, or a Dreamliner. They'll say that, SAP, you guys don't know what you're talking about because you don't know how to manage a bill of material for a jet which nobody else in the world makes, right? So only we can tell you how complex it is. So in those cases, they kind of use the software and enhance it further, saying that, it's unique to our business. And even SAP is not aware of it, on how it's done. Okay, and then there's brief introduction about these areas, right? As a homework, you guys will read this. I just wanted to focus on that pictorial representation. We talked about, SAP obviously has got number of industry solutions, so different industries, right, to kind of help those industries run enterprise resource planning more specific to their industry, right? So enterprise resource planning means any IT needs, to run your day-to-day business, right? Whether it is financials, whether it's sales and distribution, whether it's supply chain, customer relationship management, HR, production planning, all can be done within the software. However, there are differences in industry, right? And insurance industry, sales and distribution is very different because it's not a manufacturing company, right? It's an insurance industry. How you sell an insurance policy is very different than how you sell a telecommunication equipment, and is also very different than how you sell electricity or water, right? So those nuances, right, are different in different industries, and the same module, the SD module, sales and distribution module, has been enhanced to meet the different industries, right? Here you sell an insurance policy, right? So it's based upon risk. Here you're selling an equipment. Here you're selling something which has to be metered, right? And based upon the meter reading, you're charging, right? Different ways of selling your product. But all of these industries can use SAP, PSENG, right, in this area, right? All of their billing is done from SAP, right? So they are using SAP to run their shop. AT&T, right, using SAP. AIG, using SAP, right, some of the bigger names. Remember we talked about this? 5 SAP applications. Do you remember what does PLM stand for?
I know what ERP, Enterprise.
Yeah, what does it stand for? That I just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
But what does ECC stand for? That's why homework, right? There is no substitute. Okay, anybody else? Remote, what does PLM stand for? These, as I told you, these 5 are part of the business suite, right? It is in the recording, it was there in the original PDF we used for the orientation, right? Yeah, so it stands for Product Lifecycle Management. This is where you manage the life cycle of your product from the initial inception, when somebody drew something on a napkin on a, in a golf meeting, or, you went for a dinner and somebody came up with an idea. From that point till the product is, whiteboarded, designed, manufactured, sold, serviced, repaired, and eventually decommissioned, that whole life cycle is managed within SAP. Right? And that life cycle for a cell phone is what? Maybe 9 months, right? Or 1 year. For a car is probably 4 to 5 years. Right? So different products have got different life cycles. Right? Cell phone is the classic example of how the life cycle has been shortened, right? Where something can go from inception to its demise in a year and a half, right? A Samsung phone, from the time they think of it, by the time it is outdated, is probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years max, right? Okay, good. Yeah. Ravi, respond in the Q&A as opposed to the chat session, right? It's a better way to respond back. So these are all the business suite applications. CRM for customer relationship management, managing the customer aspect. SRM for supplier relationship management, managing the supplier. Because most of the companies do what? Something is being supplied to them, they're adding value to whatever is being supplied to them, i.e. manufacturing, and selling it to the customer, right? So typical manufacturing companies work like that. And SCM is that supply chain management, right? How do you manage the supply chain right? From, if you look at Goodyear, right? Supply chain is what? Supply chain is a rubber tree growing in Amazon, right? River, right, in Brazil. From there, all the way to a racing car tire and a Formula One track is their supply chain. To manage everything, which needs to happen during the process is their business. It's value add, right? ERP, this is traditional, right? Finance, SD, sales distribution, controlling, MM, PP, HR, PLM we talked about, right? These are the business suite applications. The beauty is that all of these applications and more, they all run on which platform? What framework do they run on? No, ABAP is a programming language, but what is the underlying technology on which all of these products run? Oh, they're all SAP, but what is SAP using to run them? NetWeaver, right? That's the SAP framework. It's a common chassis, right? As I said in the original class, right? The orientation class. And our goal is to learn NetWeaver. Because if we learn NetWeaver, based on which all of these products are developed, then from a systems administration standpoint, you're in a good shape that you can administer any and all of these products. Right? That was where we were. Okay, this diagram is just saying SAP's maintenance strategy, right? That any product they have, it starts with restricted shipment, right? In the industry, some people call it beta, right? It's a beta release, right? That means it's not, you want to release it to restricted set of people, so that if there are defects, you can manage them more effectively. Then it goes to unrestricted shipment, and that means they're saying is that you use it for up to 5 years, right? Of an SAP product, right? So if the latest version of ERP is called ECC6, so they're saying that it's going to run for 5 years. After that, it's going to go into extended maintenance phase. That means after that, either you upgrade, if not, SAP is still going to support you, but going to charge you 2% more maintenance fee. If you don't do an upgrade for another 2 years, then it's going to charge 4% additional maintenance fee, right? Because they're doing this specifically for you, customer-specific maintenance, right? That means they want people to start upgrading after a 5-year period or within a 5-year period. It's typically called the 5-1-2 maintenance strategy, right? 5-1-2. Okay. Remember, this was the NetWeaver stack which we talked about, right? Up here, right? This is how the NetWeaver stack looks like, right? And it's typically called the refrigerator diagram because it looks like a refrigerator, right? And I had mentioned to you it has the web application server at the bottom, right? Which has got a split personality. It has a J2EE stack. It has an ABAP stack. That means the web server is a Java web server as well as a ABAP web server, both. Java to make it more open, right? J2EE platform. It has a DB and an OS abstraction. That means it can run on any database and any OS, right? Obviously, if it's a J2EE engine, right, it is OS independent. even the ABAP layer can run on multiple operating systems. Not all operating systems, but multiple operating systems and multiple databases. For applications to talk to each other, they have a process integration or the PI layer on top of it, right? So if an SCM, supply chain management application, wants to talk to CRM, customer relationship management, it uses this process integration layer. Talk meaning exchange data, right? Exchange data between the two systems. And then you have business intelligence, data warehousing, right? Capabilities inherent in NetWeaver as well. To run queries, right? To have multi-dimensional modeling. Now, what's the new buzzword in this space, which came about with the cloud? Big data. Anybody heard that word, big data? Big data means that there's just lots and lots of data and you want to mine it, right? How do you mine it to make any sense out of it, right? That's called big data, right? Sometimes not sometimes, when you go to Google, right, it says trending on the top right-hand side, right? How are they finding all of that out, right? Means trending in a sense that they're seeing that what people are searching, how are they searching for it, or if they're searching for something else, are they clicking on these links? That's big data, right? So they are kind of mining that data and giving you some details out of it, right? What the federal government does, right, when they talk about, especially in the terrorism world, right, they talk about the chatter, right, that, how do they know, right? They are also trending data, right, that what is the chatter either in social media or in regular internet or by other means, right? They're looking for some needle in a haystack, right, and figuring out some intelligence out of it, right? So big data is becoming very popular, especially with the advent of social media, to know how are your products being discussed, right? Because traditional web presence has changed significantly, right? And companies are also, changing accordingly, right? Like one of the clients we work for, right? They are going to the extent to culturally figure out that, if you have to market something to the Hispanic population, the only way you can do it effectively is through mobile, right? Because culturally they are more inclined to basically receive information, buy or make decisions through social media, right? Impulsive buying patterns, right? I'm sure that if they want to market something to Asians, that would not work, right? Because their habits of buying are very different, right? They would want to try it, check it in 10, 15 places, get the right pricing, then go about and buy it, right? So different selling patterns, right? It's all big data, right, on how do you market and sell your products. People integration. People integration is how do you get your information out, right? Multi-channel access is very common now, right? Is through the portal mechanism, right? That I need to be able to give them a normal GUI interface. I want to give them a browser interface. I want to give them an iOS app. I want to give them an Android app. I want to give them, a Facebook presence, right? All kinds of presence, right? So multi-channel, right? Different channels, right? Even in advertisement, right? How it is, you have your traditional, paper advertisement, you've got your, radio, you've got your billboards, you've got your TV, and now with the advent of, social media, even your traditional advertisement, which was through click, right, which was the search and click, has even changed to now include social media, right? So, and SAP's NetWeaver stack is, including all of that, right? And they have been, and they're saying that, if I give you this framework, then you can use the same framework whether you want to do supply chain, whether you want to do CRM, whether you want to do SRM, PLM, right? I've given you the framework, right? Very similar to when GM makes a chassis, right? It's saying that, oh, GMC can use it, and they can come up with, GMC Yukon, right? And at the same time, I can give it to Chevy. I give the same chassis, and they might come up with Tahoe, right? And I can give it to Cadillac as well, and they can come up with a slightly different variant of it, but they're all running on the same chassis, right? Okay, there are a few, okay. So, ECC 6 was released approximately, I think, in 2005, 2006. Was when ECC 6 was released. That's why it's called ERP 2006, right? And it came into restricted shipment in 2005. So it's actually been there more than 5 years, right? And it's still in existence, right? Here is a good representation of a very simple SAP system. In this case, it's dual stack. That means at the database level, you are running both the ABAP and the Java schema, right? So you've got two schemas installed, ABAP and the Java, in the same database. And both of your app server engines, whether it is J2EE or whether it is ABAP, are going against that database. And then you can connect to it using SAP GUI or using browser, right? So all of that is achievable, and if you recall, Reason, all right, so if we look at B and C. So this is another SAP system, the back end, right? This is a Linux machine, right, which I've connected to. On my SAP GUI screen, this is this SP1 Hoj VM Server 1, right? That's what I'm connecting to, right? Because if I look at this, change item, right? It is connecting to this IP address. That's the IP address I'm connected to here as well. Hoj VM Server 1, right? The IP address for this is same, right? 192.168.1.110. Right, so I'm kind of showing you the back end of it, and also last week I had also mentioned that I'll also give you details on how to see the back end of Saraswati, right? So to connect to Saraswati, just to kind of give you a different flavor, we said we'll connect using PuTTY. And so Alan's question is if ABAP and Java Stack has its own database tables, can ABAP access the Java DB, and if so, is it using PI? No, they cannot access each other's databases, but they can get data from each other's databases using what's called JCO, Java connection, right? So an ABAP work process can talk to a Java work process and vice versa through a technology called JCO. Java connector. So